Welcome to the Queen of Positivity podcast, a super fun show centered around positivity and communication with entrepreneurs from all over the world sharing their views on the subject with your host, Kendra Fierce. Welcome to the Queen of Positivity podcast. Today, I want to welcome my new friend, Jennifer Dane, to the show. Jennifer and I actually met through TikTok, and she's also part of the Fierce family. She's been for quite a bit now. Her warm energy and caring nature is a big reason why she's here today, but she's also going to be sharing her experience working in a remote camp on a hydro dam while dealing with endometriosis. That one's going to be a tricky for me today. She's like, just shorten it to endo. I'm like, okay, I might, but I'm going to go for endometriosis. Okay. Anyways, Jennifer, I'm going to let you take the floor. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm really excited to be here. This is actually the first podcast I've ever been on. So thank you, Kendra, for having me. I was born in BC, moved to Winnipeg when I was 5, and I've lived here ever since. So this is where I grew up. This is where I was raised. I am currently trying to figure out a business plan on what I want to do with my life, I guess you could say. I've been off work for about almost a year, pretty much since the pandemic hit, which has honestly been a amazing year of transformation for me. So that's been really good. I live with my fiance and my mom. We just all rent a house together. We moved in together in October. So that's been fun and really lucky for me that in the middle of this pandemic, I have my 2 closest people. So super grateful for that. We have a dog and a cat, and yeah.
What's your dog's name?
Bella.
Bella? And what's your cat's name?
Yeah. That's a funny story. So I got my cat from the Humane Society, and but I just believe that he's a she, but he is a he. And when we got him from the Humane Society, he was 9. Like, I intentionally adopted an older cat because older cats
That's so nice.
And they're so cuddly. They're way more cuddlier than younger cats. That's why I love them. So I adopted him, and his name was Lucky when we adopted him, but that didn't suit him. So then I started calling him Boo because Bella Boo. And now I just call him Minu, honestly.
Okay, I think most people have a cat. I don't know. They have so many names. If it's not, if they got a name from a weird way, they have so many nicknames. Like, I just call my cat Cat. Like, his name is Mako because he's gray like a Mako shark, and he's quick and stuff. But I just call him Cat, and I just be like Cat, and he knows exactly who I'm talking about. He's like, yeah, that's me. That's me. What do you need? What do you need? Yeah. Oh, that's super awesome. So what have you mainly been working on in the last couple of weeks? You said the last whole year has been really transformative, but what have been your main focus in the last couple of weeks?
In the last couple of weeks, my main focus has been determining how I want to spend my days in this new world where I'm home every day. Right? Because I do not plan on going back to any sort of Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Like, I really it was never for me. Way too used to being at home and waking up when I want to.
Yep.
But I'm still trying to find that structure. I've always been very, like, if we talk about the divine masculine and the divine feminine within us, I've always been super feminine. I've always been creative. I've always had the ideas, and I've always been terrible at the execution and the container. So that's what I've really been focusing on the last couple of weeks, how to structure my days so that I can be productive, but also keep learning all these amazing things that I've been learning lately.
Oh, that's so awesome. That's so awesome. I kind of have the same thing, like lots of creativity, so many ideas, but just going with the follow through and figuring out the actual steps. It took me a long time to get there, like a 7-year entrepreneur, and I'm just figuring out the follow through, I feel like, within the last year and a half or so. Wow. I mean, I got through stuff. You follow through, but, just fully figured out a nice system. It takes a while. I mean, also I jumped from cakes to digital design. So, I mean, there was a huge jump there. So that was a big
awesome that you make cakes.
Oh yeah. Making cakes. That was fun. I mean, it's Play-Doh for adults. I mean, someone's like, I want this to look like a little piggy. I'm like, okay, fun. But anyways, so you mentioned you're currently living in Winnipeg, Manitoba in Canada. So can you give us a little bit of a lowdown about how COVID has been affecting you and your family?
Yes. So in Winnipeg, our first lockdown was from, I want to say March to about end of May. And that was difficult because I was at that time sharing an apartment with my mom, not living with my fiance. And even though numbers were so low back then, we didn't know what to do. So I actually didn't see my fiance for a couple weeks, and then he'd come for a weekend and we'd isolate in my bedroom away from my mom. And it was just crazy.
Wow.
So it's been a lot better once we like, and that was another big reason to all move in together in October. It just made sense for us financially, and just, we didn't know what the future, we don't know what the future is going to hold, I guess, with this pandemic. I feel like the light is coming though. But
Yeah.
anyway, so recently it's been pretty good. I mean, we just saw some people, some of my fiance's family, his brothers and sisters-in-law and nieces and nephews on Sunday. So that was really nice. I have to say though, it took me like 2 or 3 days to recover from that. I have become way too introverted. Like,
I feel
like
like
it's
that's
not
happening to
good.
me. I'm so glad you brought that up. Anyways.
Like, so that, yeah, it was so good, but it was also like, okay, I don't really know how I'm gonna like go back to normal life. Like, I think about summer and plans, and my fiance's in baseball and we love camping and we just have all these activities, and I'm like, can we just maybe only do something every second weekend, because I feel like I'm going to need a week to recover and then I need time for myself, and it's just so
Yeah.
different. It totally changes the way I live my life, but in so many good ways.
Yeah, and that honestly brings me to my next question, because I know you're really big into self-love and healing, and this year has been really transformative for you, as you mentioned and I've mentioned. You So how have you been able to maintain your mindset through these times, and do you have some specific tools that you can offer?
Antidepressants, I'm just joking.
Hey, that's
But hey,
okay if
if
you
you
need
need
that
help.
for help. Yeah.
Honestly, I did. I went on antidepressants for the first time through this pandemic, and it was one of the best decisions I made for myself at that time. I always had some anxiety, but the pandemic caused a insane amount of depression and despair in my brain. So for me, that was huge. Like, talking to my doctor and getting help when I was always so scared to go on anything. Um, Now, that being said, since then, going on this journey, especially in the last few months, my perspective on some of these things is really changing, uh, and why we get sick and why we feel that way. And is it environmental factors and what we eat and whatever, or is it trapped negative energy and emotions in our body? And once you start thinking of things that way, it changes the way you think about everything. So it's kind of a hard question to answer,
Well,
depending
we
on
were
what you
kind of
believe in, I guess.
yeah, we were kind of talking about that already yesterday on the live. I think of, yeah, that same kind of point of like just holding in those negative emotions will come out in a mental or physical illness. So if you
Right.
keep ignoring them and you keep pushing things down, that you're just going to have troubles later on. It's just going to bubble up. It's going to burst in some time, usually unexpected tower moment where you're like, dang, whoa, where did this come from? But if you sit down and meditate and think about it, you're going to figure out where it came from. So, I mean,
That's
I
right.
use meditation. What are some tools that you use?
Oh, right. That was your original question. Sorry. Yes.
No, no,
So
no, that's
definitely
okay.
meditation. Definitely TikTok. Like, just getting on TikTok and creating fun videos. It
Creative
speaks to my
outlet.
inner child. And so that's been really fun going live, because it is such a good way to connect with all these different people, and I have fun doing that. I've been doing a lot of reading, lots of
What
reading.
book are you reading right now?
Right now, I'm reading The Power of Now.
The Power of Now. Do you have any quick advice you can give anybody out of that?
The past doesn't matter.
Yes.
It does not matter.
It's kind of true. It's true. It is true.
So
That
allergy.
saying, right? Depressed people live in the past and anxious people live in the future. Happy people live in the present. And again, that's another thing I talk about a lot in the live is if you're able to focus yourself and stay extremely in the moment, the more you can stay in the moment and be gratuitous of every moment you're in, the happier your life's going to be. Not dwelling on the past and sitting in your suck for too long, because then you're just going to absorb it. And if you don't have an outlet for it, then you get sick. It's just a big circle. Ooh, we can see how
That's
it's
right.
happening.
Have you seen Emotion 2.0?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, you need to watch that.
What is
It's
it?
on Amazon. Emotion 2.0. It's a documentary about how trapped emotions turns into sickness. And it's the most profound movie I've ever seen.
I'm going to watch it because I do have Amazon Prime, and I never use the video thing, so I'm going to definitely check that out. It was called
Perfect.
Emotion 2.0, so let's do that homework for everybody listening. Yeah, got to look it up. Definitely, definitely. Okay, so let's dive a little bit deeper now. Can you give us a little more insight into your journey with spirituality and self-healing?
Yes.
Big questions, I know.
So my spiritual awakening / complete nervous breakdown happened definitely within the last couple of years. So my parents split up. My mom and my stepdad. My stepdad was in my life from the time I was 19 until recently. I'm 33 now. So they split up, and and I'm not going to talk about my mom's journey on that, especially because she's listening and now I feel awkward, but whatever. Sorry, Mom. But they split up, and my mom and I got that apartment, and it was a crazy year, right? Like, then the pandemic hit, and just so many different things happened. So the fall before the pandemic is really when I started to embrace my witchiness. And I use that as a tool to let go of the fact that my stepdad and I no longer had a relationship. And with being able to do that and feel okay through it, made me truly realize the power of spirituality and all of these tools that we just have for free, like at our fingertips, to heal ourselves. And so that's just kind of what started it. Then cue pandemic and crazy year. And a lot of that was just getting through it, was just not feeling depressed every day, right? And then summer, and then moving, and then this fall was when I really started to dive into it again. Most recently, I'm incredibly interested in the chakras and chakra healing. That's like
right on.
what
That's
I'm probably
awesome.
most passionate about right now. Yeah.
So are you doing the research with that by yourself? Have you found a mentor in that, or are you just doing the old Googly?
I'm just doing it by myself right now. Yeah.
That's cool.
There's a few people that I follow that I like learn from, like on Instagram and TikTok or whatever. So I'll kind of take their information, my information, and just put out what makes sense in my brain, because it's going to make some sense in someone else's brain too.
Yeah, exactly. That's another reason why I like this app too, because if you're ever wondering if you have a weird thought, just post it on here, and chances are, no, you'll find people that think the same way as you do.
Yes,
and if you need help, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of places. But something I like that you mentioned, that learning by yourself, because that is something I actually write in my gratitude journal like every day, is access to technology. Because even if you don't have the financial abundance right now to pay for a course or pay for a mentor or join a mastermind, you are on this TikTok, you are listening to my podcast, therefore you have access to Wi-Fi, therefore you have access to an infinite amount of information. You can teach yourself anything. So if you want to learn, more about chakras, you can teach yourself, and that's not any less than getting a mentor or doing something else. The information is still valid, but right. Yeah, you can definitely teach yourself. And I like that using that time during the pandemic to grow yourself is, I think a lot of us are on that same journey. So I'm glad you brought that up. My next question is, what is shadow work?
Shadow work is freaking difficult, is what it is.
Truth.
But so
Facts.
good. Shadow work is a lot of different things. I think it ties fully in with inner child work, or maybe even the same thing, right? Like healing your inner child. It's also coming to terms with the dark parts of you, the not so good parts of you, the negative side of you. Coming to terms with it, changing what you can't, or changing what you can and accepting what you can't. Right? It's not always just about, oh, I don't like this thing about me, I have to change it. It's not possible to change everything about ourselves, and definitely not in one shadow work session, right? So I think
It's a work
it's
in
a
progress.
little
It's
bit.
a practice. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. It's a super, super long practice. What tools would you recommend that someone uses to get started with shadow work?
To get started, I would recommend a journal and just Googling shadow work journal prompts or inner child journal prompts. That's what I would recommend for starting out. And then once you get more into it and feel more comfortable, standing in front of the mirror and saying some of those things out loud is also really, can be really triggering, but also just so good and healing.
Bringing to the mirror, I like that you brought out that point, because again, you can write in your journal. Again, that's the best step to getting it out of your head, but even a better step is bringing it to the mirror, bringing it to a therapist, bringing it to a counselor, bringing it to your loved ones, right? Saying it out loud is really bringing it to life. So what do you think is the most challenging thing about shadow work? You said it's tricky. What's the most challenging thing, and how can you overcome it?
I think the most challenging thing is it's not nice to hear or realize things about yourself that aren't so good, right? We want to be perfect, which is a bad word, but we want to be, we don't want to think of ourselves in a negative light, and we shouldn't. But I think that's the difficulty. It's very hard to do the shadow work without it turning into you thinking negatively about yourself. And that's dangerous because our thoughts and our words are so freaking powerful. We are what we say, we are what we think. So my advice for to get through that is to have self-love practices set up for after you're done your shadow work. And also making sure, like, shadow work isn't something that I don't think I would ever schedule in, because it's not something I can do all of the time. And for me, being a female, my most time that I like to do shadow work so far is when I have my period, because I'm
Yep.
just shedding and releasing, and I'm have endo, so I'm all about periods and moon cycles and all of that. I could talk about for hours too. Yeah, so I think doing the shadow work and doing the shadow work when you feel you're most comfortable, when you feel like you're able to do it without having it be super triggering, and then having self-love practices set up for after you're done your shadow work so that you're loving yourself through it.
What is your favorite self-love practice you like to do after shadow work?
Probably have a bath. I have a bath probably every day. And I'm not a water sign, but I'm obsessed with water. So
Yeah.
have a bath.
Same. I'm an air sign. That's the same thing. I have definitely, like, I feel like I get like my recharges in water. Super
Yeah.
weird. Yeah, I love it. That's super. I'm glad you said that, because I kind of, I'm a business lady at the same time. We do have our mindset reset pack, and that is a great point as to why I've included. Do I think essential oils and bath salts are going to change or bath dust are going to change your life? Fuck no. No, they're not. But the shadow work journal in the prompts and the mindset reset information in there will, but it is so hard. So I've included the additional things to insinuate the self-care practices after you do the hard stuff. Right? It's a whole entire system. So that's kind of why
I
it's
love
there.
it.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's totally why that is there. And again, that's another good tool. Like, just get yourself set up, plan, get yourself a journal, get yourself the shadow work prompts. You can find them anywhere, the internet, Pinterest, or whatever. And then just make sure you have those self-care practices set up. My favorite time to shadow work is Yeah, again, when I'm feeling really emotional, or I'm, again, trying to not be reactive to anything. Like, I want to be like Buddhist level enlightenment. Like, that is my goal. I should not be letting people's words affect my emotions or reactions at all, because then I'm losing control of the situation and myself a little bit. Not a little bit, I am. So that's kind of what I'm working on. I believe that chronic pain isn't talked about enough. And we mentioned the endometriosis at the beginning. So are you open to sharing a little bit more about your journey with endometriosis?
Sure. So, just in case nobody knows what endometriosis is a disease, a chronic disease where tissue like the lining of your uterus detaches and can form cysts and lesions all in your abdomen. It can actually form anywhere in your body, although that's pretty rare. I only have it in my abdomen. I've had 3 surgeries. The biggest issue with endometriosis, especially in Manitoba, is for a very long time we did not have an excision specialist here. So when you have endometriosis, you can have 2 different types of surgery. You can have ablation, where they just go in and burn out what they can see with lasers. The problem with that is it does not get the microscopic cells. It does not heal very well. It causes a lot more scar tissue, et cetera, et cetera. Excision surgery is like what they would do if you had a cancerous tumor. They would remove the tumor as well as healthy flesh around it to try and get all of the microscopic cells to eliminate the chance of it coming back. There is no cure for endometriosis. So anyways, when I had my first surgery in, I want to say, 2018. I don't even know. No longer. I don't know. It's been a long time. So I had my first 2 surgeries here in Winnipeg. And then that's when I found out what excision surgery was. So I never would have even got those 2 surgeries if I had known. And then I went to Regina for my 3rd surgery. And my 3rd surgery was amazing. The doctor I saw there was amazing. And I was pain-free for almost 3 years. So that was really good.
That's like 3 surgeries. Okay, again, like, I don't think a lot of people know what it is. So to me, just to recap, correct me if I'm wrong again, like, it's lesions. It's lesions inside causing the pain. Yeah, and then
it
and
like
you have to get
spreads
them
out like it can spread out like a spider web and fuse your organs together.
It fuses your.
So my 3rd surgery, which was at that point the worst endo I had ever had. It was the longest I went without surgery, and now you're adding on top of adhesions from 2 botched surgeries, right? So my ovary was stuck down to my pelvic sidewall. And and that sounds crazy. I have stage 3. There's 4 stages. It gets way worse than that. I know I have a endometriosis support group in Manitoba. I started one years ago because there wasn't one here. I know women that had cysts the size of like huge cysts in their uterus, outside of their uterus. It can get very, very bad. The problem is it's about a 10-year diagnosis time, which is insane considering 1 in 10 women have. Because, what do you mean how? Because we're women.
I know, like, I get it. Like, I understand.
No,
I know. That's like, why though? Oh man. And then while you're dealing with that, you have the pain of it. So you have this. It's not just a thing you have. It's like chronic, brutal, terrible pain that you're dealing with. Can you explain the pain of endometriosis for you?
Yes. So for me, it feels a lot like, okay, so I just wanted to say one more thing. Because it's tissue that's similar to the uterine lining, which is also messed up that they haven't proved that it is the uterine lining, because it is, but whatever, that's beside the point. Because the tissue is similar to the lining of the uterus, when a woman without endometriosis has her period, her uterus is shedding and bleeding already. That's already a painful thing. Women that have endometriosis, every single spot of endo in their body is also shedding and bleeding. So that's where the real chronic pain comes from, although that's not true for everybody, because some people have severe endometriosis and no pain at all, because we're all different, right? So for me, the pain feels a lot like stabbing. I often say, like, it feels like my uterus is going to fall out, like just like a heaviness or bloating. I've been really good the last while. Like the better I take care of myself, the less pain I have, right? So, but
Oh,
yeah.
that's interesting to hear. Because remember, you were mentioning that you were saying, taking care of yourself and the mental and physical effects that it has on your body, right? And that now that you're taking care of, becoming more spiritual, diving deep into caring for yourself a bit more, that your endometriosis is not bothering you as much. Like
That's right.
I love
It's
that you
such a
said that.
hard
So
thing.
yeah, I'm dealing with chronic pain, and past traumas does take a lot of work. As you can hear, like just the surgeries and dealing with the pain of it every, 28 days or month, whenever your cycle is. What is your biggest asset when taking on these mountainous tasks and trying to stay positive?
My self-care practices, for sure. My self-care list.
Ooh,
So,
do you want to share it?
yeah. Yes, I do. Well, I don't have it with me, but make a list of everything that makes you feel better and then categorize it depending on how you feel. So I haven't had a day like this in a long time because I've been doing all of the good things. But if you have a day when you wake up and you just can't even get out of bed, like you're just so full of despair and depression, and you just don't even want to do anything, just go have a shower, go make some breakfast, and get back into bed. That's all you have to do. Right.
Yeah.
And then if you're feeling just a little down or a little anxious or whatever, like I have my list kind of categorized because in those moments of sadness or depression or anxiety, for me, I'm not good at making decisions at the best of times, let alone when I'm not feeling well, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I like the list, because you just look at it and like, oh, I'm feeling this way, I'm going to go do this. And then you just do it and you're done. And if you spend the rest of the day being a depressed whatever in bed, then you do. It is what it is. But at least
That's
you can say,
okay.
I did something. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just about making those small steps every day. And that I'm going to insert the mindset reset in here too. And that's kind of why I separated it into different groups, because it's just about making those small changes every day until you're capable of doing a little bit more. You don't have to change overnight. You really don't. And again, on my worst days, yeah, sometimes it is just taking a shower. Sometimes it is just actually getting dressed. I'm not perfect. I have bad days. And again, sometimes it's just like TikTok has actually been such a help for me. I live completely alone in the middle of a pandemic. It does get kind of lonely, and I don't want to think about lonely thoughts. I don't want to get depressed and be like, I have no one to get dressed for. I get dressed for you guys now. It's amazing. I have people to hang out with, and it's been a very inspiring place to be. And that's how we met.
Absolutely.
So
I can't remember the last time I wore real pants. No one ever sees me. It's okay. Wear your pajamas. It's just
exactly. All right. So I do want to talk a little bit more about the endometriosis, but I want to talk about it in lieu with the hydro dam. You worked at a hydro dam, a remote. Can you tell us a bit more about your job?
sure can. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, I'm in Manitoba, and in northern Manitoba, there is a hydro dam called Kiosk. It's huge. It's this huge project Manitoba Hydro is doing. And I started there in fall of 2018. It was 3 weeks in, 1 week out. It was literally 2 weeks after I met my fiance. So we just started dating. So I remember like calling him and saying, we need to go on a date. Like we were so into each other, but we didn't say I love you yet, like nothing. So it was like,
Aw.
I really like you, but I'm leaving for I don't know how long. So that was interesting. Anyways, the first while I was up there, it was incredible. I met incredible people up there. I was a sighted min. So I was running the travel, the payroll, everything that you could imagine at a remote construction site. I had to use interesting problem solving skills because, all of a sudden we'd run out of bottled water for the crew, and it wasn't like we could just go to the store and get water, right? So there's lots of I formed a lot of relationships, not just with the people up there in the camp, but also the people that lived in Thompson and Gillam and worked in Thompson and Gilliam, because I'd have to call them and be like, hey, I need a favor. I need to get like however many pallets of water here tomorrow, and so I really liked that. I really liked how much responsibility I had. And the people on the crew were phenomenal. Like, and I actually know one of the listeners in here, I met her because I worked with her husband at Kiosk. And then
Wow.
she reached out to me, and now she's amazing. She's one of my favorite people ever. I love you, Stacey. So I've met like some really cool people that I still talk to, and I've made some really connections. The downsides, well, I don't think I have to explain what it's like being a woman on a construction site, right? That's already.
Hey, though, we do have my listeners are almost 50-50. So tell them, explain it. Maybe did some things that people aren't thinking about. So, what are some of the downsides
I
of being
don't
a
even
woman
know
on a
where to
construction site?
start. It was hard. It was a hard place to work. And honestly, it's funny because I say it's hard to be a woman in construction, but you want to know who the most people I had issues with up there were other women.
What? Really? Why?
I don't know. I think partially some of the, like, there wasn't very many women that I worked with, but the few that I did, one of them was a lot older. I think it was a threat, like she was threatened maybe because I did
Just
know
projecting.
more than she did. Yeah.
She needs a
And
shadow
then I don't
workbook.
know. Yeah. You have to be careful now, right? Once you start, like, and if you meet someone and you see that they're struggling, like, no,
Yeah.
not my job. You do
Right?
you'll figure it out on your own.
For me though, it helps. I mean, it brings us to our next question, but it really helps me with empathy, right? Like, I'm realizing that a lot of people who are coming at you and saying some things, like, unless you actually like did some physical thing where you kind of deserve it a little bit, that's the thing. Like, you can fuck up, you can, and in that point, you need to apologize, right, and accept it. But if people are coming at you for no reason and just negativity is spilling out, most times it's just projection. If there's no reason for it to be happening, no actual action or circumstance or situation has happened, they just negative to you, like, that's a lot of times it's projection. So it's made it, shadow work has made it a lot easier for me to control my reactions around other people's emotional instabilities, because I'm not always emotionally stable. I definitely wasn't years ago, right? It's a work in progress. But that brings me to my next question. So in your words, what is empathy?
To me, empathy is the ability to listen to other people without judgment.
Ooh, yeah. I like that. Yeah.
To just listen and feel and be there for them without judging it or giving advice unless it was asked for.
Oh, man, am I glad you said that. I realized this way too late in life, that people don't want your advice unless they ask. They really don't. So if you have, this is just a little tidbit. If you want to give someone advice, that's great. And there's a little communication tip that I would like to give you by saying, hey, can I give you my opinion on this? Instantly you break down the ego barrier. It's literally like a 2-second word thing that you can say that literally, if you want to say it, hey, can I give you my opinion on this, will literally save you so many conflicts. Oh man, I'm still working on it because I'm like very like, hey, but like, yeah, that's a communication tip from me that will really help you.
I really see it. One of my really good friends is watching right now. Her name is Christy, and we have been friends for, I want to say 12 years or something like that. And we are both just embarking on this crazy spiritual journey, and our friendship is changing because of that. And that's exactly it. We used to give each other unsolicited advice all the freaking time. Also, venting when it's not warranted, like asking, like, hey, is it okay if I vent to you right now? Because that is going to change how people respond, right? And it's so, and I'm getting goosebumps, and I see her commenting because she knows exactly what I'm talking about. Like, and I'm telling you guys too, don't give up on your friendships when you're going through this. Like, if your gut is telling you it's not right and it's not right, you need to walk away, do it. But sometimes it just takes time and work and learning to reopen your communication. And just because you communicated a certain way with a friend for 10 years doesn't mean you can't change it now.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you pointed that out because it is. But I think an important thing to note is both people must be willing to work on it, right? Just like in any relationship, right? It's
Yes.
important. It sounds like both of you are willing to work through the stuff, and if you make some mistakes, accept it, move on, and try to grow because you're changing your vibration when you decide to go on self-healing journeys or work on shadow work. You are increasing your vibration, you're becoming a better person, and you'll notice in your life that people are going to drop off because you're just not going to be matching the same vibration anymore, right? But it sounds like you have a friend that's willing to do it together, but there are going to be times when you're not always going to match up, right?
Right.
So it's just
But that's
willing to
okay.
be able to lift that other person up with, that's so
Yeah.
nice. That's so good that you have that support system. I'm so happy for you with that. So how do you
Thank you.
think,
I'm very lucky.
yeah, how do you think that people can be more empathetic in situations that maybe feel out of control or are hard to understand?
Listen again, listen without judgment. Listen to listen. Don't listen to respond.
That's such a really,
Yeah.
oh man, that's a big one. What if
It
it's
is a
like,
big one,
yeah,
and that is so
I
important.
find that hard to do sometimes if I'm feeling super emotional. So do you have any tips for, being empathetic if you're just feeling too emotional when even it's hard to listen?
Well, that's difficult because I guess it would depend on the situation. Like if I was feeling too emotional, I might not even be letting myself talk to anybody else about what's going on with them, right? Because
Yes.
again, it's going to change how you respond. And if somebody comes to me with an issue, I want to be able to tell them my advice or be there for them or whatever without my own ego, my own pride, my own issues getting in the way of that. So I think it's setting boundaries. That's what it is. It's setting boundaries.
I knew it was I knew you had one as soon as you said I wouldn't even be talking. Yes, exactly. You wouldn't be it because that's like the point. I'm glad I knew you would have that boundary, right? Like if you're too emotional, walk away, right? Friends,
That's
it's
right.
what we have to work on, right? Is just realizing when we've hit our limits, and that's okay. You can hit your limits. Your work in progress. You're building on the masterpiece. So if you hit your
Yeah.
limits, just being able to communicate, but don't just walk away from someone and slam the door in their face. Like that's not how this goes. That's not communication, right? That's destructive communication. Saying hey, I'm overwhelmed with this right now. I need some time. I'll come back at you, and give them a time. Don't just say I'll come back later, because that person that you just left is now okay, when's it gonna happen? And they're gonna be waiting zone. So it's just fair to the other person to say, hey, it's gonna take me half an hour to sort this out. I'll come back at you later. Does that work for you? Boom.
Love it.
Problemos.
Exactly. So good.
Problemos hopefully solved. hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully. All right. So let's touch base quickly on spirituality. So, do you think that there is a link between positivity and spirituality? And before we talk
Oh,
about it, again, I want to reiterate for everyone watching, whatever religion or whatever you believe is totally cool. This is a safe space. I just know that different people, they practice different things, and I want to just educate. This podcast is about education. So I want it to be a safe place for my guests to open up about what they're doing. So, anyways, you think there's a link between positivity and spirituality? If so, what?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm.
I don't think it's impossible to be positive without being spiritual, but I do think that if you're spiritual, you're just automatically going to be more positive,
Interesting. I love it. I love it.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
Spiritual, we're operating at that high frequency, and that high frequency is where the positivity lives. So I think that's why.
And it's usually where the manifestations of humans live. We really
Exactly.
want high vibration stuff. And I kind of believe that our souls choose to be here to learn some extra lessons, and once you start learning them, you start to get those rewards and those things that you're really craving. So, but you're the only one who can do that work, right? It's in your mindset. Nobody can change your mindset except you. Yeah. So are you open to sharing a bit about your spiritual background and the tools you use?
Absolutely. So I'll preface by saying that for me, God, source, the universe, all interchangeable. The most important thing for me to believe is that everything begins and ends with God. I grew up Christian. We weren't really churchgoers, but I just learned what I learned from my mom telling me stories in the Bible. I definitely still have some strong Christian roots, and I definitely still believe in a lot of things that the Bible says. However, recently I've actually been studying ancient Christianity,
Interesting.
and I'm so excited. Okay. So now, in my opinion, please nobody get offended. If you have strong religious roots, some of this might be a little bit difficult to hear, but in my opinion. So, because you told me to say that, right? In my opinion, we can say that and then we can say whatever we want and it's okay.
True.
I love it.
Again, this podcast is about communication. And when I speak with my guests ahead of time, especially if they've never been on a podcast, we are projecting this out to a lot of people. And you are allowed to have your opinions. That is my opinion. I think that is okay. We have freedom of speech here. You're allowed to have your opinion. And I don't think you should be blasphemized for it unless it's a negative thing. You're hurting a person, place, or an animal or trying to push it on other people. This is just her opinion on her experience. Take it how you want.
That's right. Okay, so ancient Christianity. So they have proven that there are books missing from the Bible, from the King James Bible that all Christians follow. They are proving that there's books missing, and one of them is the Gospel of Thomas. And if you're interested in this, please go look it up because it will blow your mind. The missing parts that are in this Gospel of Thomas are basically all about manifestation, oneness, energy, chakras. I know!
They would take it!
Life changing, and the only reason why it wasn't put in the Bible is because they didn't want every single human to know that we actually all have those healing abilities. We actually all have the ability to heal ourselves. We all have the ability to heal other people. And that's incredible and mind-blowing. And for someone who grew up Christian and then started to get into spirituality and then not being sure about things conflicting and where my beliefs lied, believing in God, believing in the Christian religion, but now it's all connecting and I'm just so excited.
Well,
to hear that that's where manifestation came from.
Yeah.
Like, well, I mean, really, that's what
whether it came from there or whether it's like was just known of, right? Like,
right, yeah,
right. Like, I believe that's been around for like as long as humans have been here doing that stuff. Like, I have some weird beliefs myself, though. Like, because I am just a person that gets just live life and collect the data and see what's the same, right? But again, whatever you believe in, manifestation, your perception is your reality, and people are manifesting huge things on this planet. And people, those big billionaires, again, they do believe in tarot and they do work with spiritual advisors, and they really do. They really do, friends.
They really do. I know, and it all starts to make sense, and it all starts to click when you really start to think about it, and it's actually not scary. And so for anyone listening who thinks that spirituality is at all connected to evilness or if it's not scary. I promise you it's not scary. It's actually beautiful and enlightening and amazing.
Yeah, and you don't have to be super religious to do any of this. If you don't want to be a Christian or read the Bible, still, you don't have to, right? Like, I honestly don't have any interest in reading the Bible. I don't. I might do it out of research purposes because I just want to be knowing it. But at the same time, I don't have an interest in it because I'm on my own journey and figuring it out myself without that tool, right? But if you want to use that tool and that whatever works for you, that's amazing. That's right, but hearing that manifestation stuff is just something I've thought as a kid. I'm a kid who knew about creating my own reality, but didn't know how I was doing it. And as an adult, now there's a word for it. And my mom is learning this stuff too, which is so exciting because she would just tell everybody, like, she can just do whatever, like, she can make anything happen. She's like, I don't know. It's like, she says it like it's wild, like whatever. I don't know how she does it, but now we know there's a word for this, and there has been a word for however long, ever, forever, right? So again, like that's my experience is just manifesting as a child, but now learning there's a word, and now learning it's been a thing that we've been doing for eternity. Like, see, things start connecting, and it's really fun. It's super,
I love
super
it
fun.
so much.
Yeah, so do I. We haven't really talked so much about what you're doing currently with your work and your business. You mentioned that you are trying to start a business to blend more of your stuff together. So have you been able to connect your spirituality with your business plans?
So yeah, that's a huge work in progress. I have an administration background, so running and starting a business is very new to me, but I'm trying to start a like a self-love discovery business. So when I first started getting into spirituality and self-love and self-care, it can be so overwhelming because there's chakras and crystals and not just there's crystals, but there's like 500 crystals and tarot cards and all of these amazing things that can help us, but it can be incredibly overwhelming and there's a lot of different information out there. So my goal is to make a course, I guess you would call it, like to create a course for people where they can have snapshots of all of these different tools that you could use to heal yourself. So I want to have a section on chakras, a section on shadow work, a section on determining your self-care list, all these different things, and then encourage my, I guess, clients to journal throughout this process to then determine what part of it really stuck and what they want to learn more about, and then go from there.
Oh, that's so amazing. So when are you going to start doing that?
Well, I've actually already started. My friend Christy is literally saying, this girl is changing my life because that's who I've been. She's my guinea pig and she's amazing. And it's incredible. I honestly, when I first started thinking about doing this, I thought, I don't think I'll be able to do it for people that I know. I think that might be too difficult. And I was wrong. Doing it for somebody that I know and love and trust is actually incredible because I trust her constructive feedback.
Yeah.
And I trust it. So that's been really good. So I've already started doing it for a friend. I am currently considering if I should take a course on how to build a course from scratch, but it's very high price, so I'm a little bit skeptical. So I'm just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, there's like quite a few resources. But yeah, no, that sounds like an absolutely amazing project. I'm glad you're already starting it. And I was just going to say, there are a ton of, because I have an online course as well, there are a ton of really good resources like on YouTube. So maybe I'll link you up with some that I was using. And if you want to help, like, let me know. What advice would you give someone starting out on their self-healing journey?
Educate yourself. Make sure you're getting your information from trusted sources. Learn the difference between self-care and caring for yourself. Because there's a huge difference. Self-care is the bubble baths, is the, whatever it is that makes you feel good. It's the comfy PJs. It's the getting into bed and staying there all day if that's what you need. Caring for yourself is the shadow work, is the inner child work, is the meditating, is the things that can feel difficult but are actually incredibly healing.
Yes. Taking care of your body and mind all at once. Again, yes. I'll mention that mindset reset, right? Because I created that. That's my program that I created off the 75 Hard program that I made more accessible. But it's all the things. That's why. Because I was lucky that it was lucky, coincidence that I started a gratitude journal and started working through shadow work, which I didn't know what it was called at the time. But on top of, making sure to keep my body active every day, drinking the appropriate amount of water, eating a healthy diet, not drinking too much alcohol. I don't really drink a lot anyways, but I cut it straight out for 75 days. But yeah, just really taking care of yourself so you can just get going in a good place. because it's hard. It's super hard. Well, that wraps us up on the really kind of difficult questions here. But I do have a few fun ones. I want to know, what's next for you? What have you got next on the docket?
Figuring out how to execute my ideas, the container, becoming one with my divine masculine, which I, for some reason, I've been rejecting my whole life. So that is what's next for me. Figuring out the structure, launching my program, launching my courses, getting my business going.
Yes. Do you have a launch date picked out? I'll mention goals, right? Just setting those goals. If you don't pick a launch date, you're never going to launch it. So when I'm helping my clients,
I need to make my decision on if I'm going to take the course about taking the courses yet or what I'm going to do. But you're right, I do. I'm writing that down. Set launch dates.
I'm a pusher. I can't help it. I'm a pusher, Katie. I'm a pusher. That's a Mean Girls quote. Mean Girls quote. I always think about her. I'm a pusher, Katie. I'm a pusher. I pushed my husband into law school. That was a bust. Anyway, sorry. That's off track. Mean Girls is literally my favorite movie. I think it's going to last the test of time. There's a lot of lessons to be learned in it. There's actually a lot of lessons in humility and just becoming your true self and not being fake. Honestly, if you actually rewatch it as an adult, anyways, not a lot of things make me speechless. I'll ask another question. Is there any other advice or anything else you'd like to talk about? Well, you have the floor.
Just don't be afraid to do it, to dive into the spirituality, to the self-care, to the healing, to whatever it is you have to do. You really can have anything you want. You really can. And it's so hard to keep up at that high vibration. But once you get there, I'm telling you, it's just
it feels better. So you can see it in her. You can see it when she talks about it, when she's experiencing it. Again, if you want to feel what these vibrations feel like, listen to binaural beats. What is the money vibration? What is the vibration of a good relationship?
Yep.
Listen to it on YouTube, on Spotify, in your headphones, and feel it. And you'll feel right away if you match up with it or not. As I was saying last night on the live, I played the money frequency, which is 183.53 hertz or something. My body was instantly whoa, what is that? Because I have money blocks, right? And I listened to it for the first time and my body was instantly whoa, we don't match with that. So I'm trying to get on that level. I need to listen to it. I need to feel it. I need to live it, right? So if you want to feel what it's like, I'm a science person that has experienced spirituality on my own. And that's why I have this podcast, because I feel like I'm a complete random, almost unbiased opinion to it, because I just want to learn. And that's why I have so many different guests on the podcast, because I want to learn about the experience and see what matches up. And again, it's so cool that you've been experiencing that ancient Christian history, and what is the book that's missing so people can remember and look it up?
The Gospel of Thomas.
Yeah, the Gospel of Thomas. And again, I'm not a religious person, but am I going to look that up? Heck to the I am. And I think you should too.
And what we're doing, which is so cool, is forming your own belief system based on everything that you're learning, which is exactly what everybody should do. And maybe that's another piece of advice. Don't believe something just because that's how you were raised. Actually ask yourself how you feel, why you feel that way, explore what you need to, let go of what you don't. Just because it's written in the Bible doesn't make it true.
Yeah.
So just
take what resonates and leave what doesn't. It's just like the tarot card readings you see on your For You page. It is like that. See what your heart wants to take out of it. And if you're aiming to be your highest self, the best way you're going to do that, again, let's bring it full circle, is shadow work. What is your highest self? Do you even know? Do you even know what your highest self looks like? How are you going to get there? Do you even know? Write it down. That's literally how my shadow work journal starts. It says, Kendra's enlightened self. And it's how I want to be: unreactive, caring, empathetic, giving, unmaterialistic. It's literally how, and then I write my shadow self. I literally wrote, what is my shadow self? And then I wrote that down. And then, because your girl likes solutions, I wrote, okay, how can I become less reactive? I Google, how do I become less reactive? And then what did I write? Step by step. And then I just figured out, what are the steps that are going to work for me? And then I write that in there and I practice. That is literally what you do. You practice. Because are you going to be able to change yourself in a split second? Heck to the no way. No way you're not going to. And I'm going to be a work in progress for probably my whole life. And so are you. If you think you're perfect, then you have the most shadow work out of all of us. Sorry if I triggered any of you there, but it's true. No one's perfect. And those people who think they are sitting on a pedestal, and you don't listen to those people ever. Never. That's the worst person to take advice from, is somebody who thinks they're perfect. And you'll know those people because they've probably said it, and or they just act like they are, right? The worst people to take advice from. Oh, man. So, all right. How can our listeners support you right now? Is there any way? Do you want them to, how can they support you?
I'm really trying to get to 1,000 followers on my Instagram, because once you hit 1,000, things start happening. So I would love if you guys could follow me there. My
What's your
username
Instagram?
is just Jen_Dame. Nice
Awesome.
and simple.
JEN_DAME.
DAME. That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
And just keep in touch if you're interested in learning from me. If you are interested in self-love courses or me planning retreat days for you, get in contact, because that's what I'm kind of getting going right now. So
yes, yeah. That's what you do. That's what you do. Remember, it's that's living it, right?
Right.
That's what you do. Yeah. That's what she does.
I am a spiritual entrepreneur.
Boom. I like that. I so like that came up, because, again, another mini rant. A lot of manifestation is getting on that vibrational level of living it already. Like, I don't drive my dream car right now. I had mine when I was younger, but my new one's a lot more expensive. But I'm driving around in my Nissan Micra like I'm already driving that thing, right? You need to feel like you have it already, or else you're going to miss it, right?
Yeah.
But that, again, what is for you at that time won't go past you. But if you want to hack the system and get things quicker, you have to get yourself there with self-healing, shadow work, getting on vibrational levels, feeling what that vibration feels like, right? Right.
If your manifestation isn't working, it's probably because you have some shadow work to do.
Exactly. Right. And again, I mentioned my money blocks. I know I have these. I'm working on them. And again, you write it out, figure it out. Why? Ask yourself over and over again. Why? Why is this happening? Why do I feel this way? Why do I want this? Why? All right. Well, thank you so much, Jennifer, for joining me on the Queen of Positivity podcast. And thank you so much for sharing your story and insights, and of course, spreading love and positivity. Anybody who's listening right now, you can catch this recording on Apple and Spotify tomorrow. It should be there. Sometimes it can take some more hours on Apple. That's the only thing why I'm iffy about it. It goes right away on Spotify, but sometimes Apple needs to check and make sure we didn't swear or anything or do anything bad on there. So I appreciate Apple. So if anybody has any questions, does anybody have any questions?
Okay, I have a question. What spiritual tools do you both use?
You can go first.
You go first?
Oh. You go first.
I use crystals. I love crystals. And I do have I guess the other way people could support me is following my TikTok also, if you're not already. The spiritual tools, I use crystals. I use journaling, like journaling is probably my biggest thing to heal, I guess. I'm losing my words, but whatever. Exercise for sure. Or not exercise, sorry, moving my body every day, because you have to move that energy through you or it's not going to leave. That's huge. Meditation, and most recently tarot cards, which I am obsessed with. But I just started.
I'm glad you brought those up. Yeah, I'm just kind of figuring out this stuff by myself. I do tarot cards, which I love. I've always been a really good vessel for messages, not only for myself, but luckily for other people, which is helpful, as the tarot cards are going really well. I booked my first couple paid readings, which is amazing because I didn't offer it. They asked. That is the best. That's how you know there's a demand, is when people are asking you, hey, I want to pay for some readings. So anyways, tarot cards, I will mention, because you did. Anybody can use them, okay? They are a tool for everybody. Anybody can use them. So if you're interested in learning about tarot cards, again, you can do a lot of research by yourself, but on TikTok on Mondays, I do it with you. I'm learning with you. So if you have questions, that's the time to show up so I can help you. So I use tarot cards. They're really good. Meditation, journaling, shadow work journals, and my gratitude journal. Does that go with spirituality? I don't know, but that is my literal biggest tool that I use to change my life, because you can't feel gratitude and negative emotions at the same time. It's just not possible. And the more negative you are, the more negative you're feeling, the more you should get out that journal. And that's a good way that you can flip that mindset. Boom. Right. Quick. So yeah, those are the ones I use, but
I also love my gratitude journal. I write in it every day, and I've tried to shift into being grateful what I don't have also, because that's how you manifest.
Yes, that's manifestation. So in my gratitude journal, I kind of split it up. So, and I don't choose, it's not a specific formula, but I'm writing down, like, I look around and I'm like, what am I grateful for in the present moment? My beautiful home, my healthy pets, my body, access to technology. But I'm also grateful for 1 million TikTok top followers to inspire. Do I have that yet? Nope. But I am still manifesting it. So I'm grateful that it's on the way. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because that is a big part of manifestation, right? Is just learning, being grateful for that it's on the way, and being grateful, feeling the feelings of having it. And that comes from writing it down. Just find a journal that you like. I'd say something small, because honestly, I've had big ones and they just get in the way and they're never around when I need it. Something that you can just have in a drawer or whatever is a really cool place. Since we're talking about, emotions and mindset stuff, dealing with endometriosis, do you find that it affects PMS? Do you have any, does it affect your emotions? Yeah.
You know what? I can't tell you if it's endometriosis or not, but yes, when I am PMSing, I definitely feel my emotions harder. I definitely am more irritable. And for years, when I was not aware of all of these amazing self-healing tools, my PMS took over my life. I was a grumpy bitch for a week straight, and over the top. And I could see myself treating some people around me awfully, but not being able to stop it. And that's just because I wasn't enlightened and I wasn't doing the things to take care of myself. And since I've started doing that, my PMS has gotten a lot better. But yes, of course, our PMS and our periods affect our emotions. I mean, if you bled for 7 days straight, would it not affect you?
Yeah. I actually struggle with, it's called PMDD. So if anybody here has ever heard of it or whatever, it's like life ruining if you don't know about it. But once you do, you can really help yourself. But it's almost debilitating. Like, it takes over my life. It's not even like I'm a little grumpy. It's like literally my thoughts go from I'm a kick-ass entrepreneur that can take on the world to what am I doing? I'm a big loser. And it just happens for 5 days, and then I get my period and it's gone. But there's a very small percentage of people who actually deal with it on that severe circumstance. So I'm just bringing it up because I'd like more knowledge to go out about it. And if it resonates with you, as if it's seemingly you'll feel like it's more than just the regular thing. It's like it's hard to deal with sometimes, and it's affected me since I got my period from when I was young. And I think my parents were just thought, we all just thought it was extra PMS and stuff. But no, as I've learned, I've been talking with my doctors, it's a real thing, and it can take over your life, and it can ruin relationships. And you find that you'll this whole week it's like why is everything going wrong, and your whole mindset, and you just can't do it because it's hormones and stuff. So, but now exercise. It's PMDD. PMDD. Wow. That's why I'm mentioning it. Look it up. It might be something that you're dealing with, right? And I didn't know about it. And some doctors will completely dismiss it. But when you find one that knows about it, they want to help you. And there's hormone therapy and stuff that you can do to take it. There's pills that you can help. But it's a real thing that really affects people's lives. And yeah, I didn't know about it until I figured it out by just Googling and just realizing, you know what? This is more than the average thing, right? I shouldn't be having destructive thoughts because of my period, right? Yes. That's not normal, right? And I don't even get cramps, friends.
Good for you.
Friends, right? So that's one thing I don't, but at the same time, having those thoughts, that's not normal, right? So if your thoughts are going from regular, that's something to look at.
And something good to know, I think, as women is just in general, if you're having those kind of intrusive thoughts during your PMS or your period, it's not normal. If you have to take Advil, no, if you have to take Advil, fine. But if you can't go to work, if you can't get out of bed when you have your period, that's not normal.
It's when you're taking
Normal
like 2 or 3 or 4
taking
Advils.
a couple Advil and being able to go about your day. Not so just don't be afraid to talk to your doctor and question it, because there's so many women health issues. As you can see, you're talking to 2 females right now who just have these random women health issues that you've probably never heard of, and there's more. So just make sure
there's just so many. And I like that there's men, all genders in here, because again, just for maybe people that don't know about it, you can have just more empathy. Empathy comes with education, right? You can have a lot more empathy for someone by educating yourself on their side of the situation. Oh, she's just grumpy. Do you know what it feels like to have 40 knives twisting your inside for however many days, and then being told you still have to go to work, that you still have to make dinner, you still have to care for your kids, you still have to care for your business, you don't get time off for it? That's what we're dealing with. So and that's why I love being an entrepreneur, because, if I have those really down days, I can just sit in my bed. But I know that a lot of women do not have that ability. They have to go to work, they have to deal with it. And when I was going to work in those circumstances, I was ruining relationships. So what's the point of me doing that? What's the point of me going to work in that circumstance? You just let me stay home, okay? Because it'll be better off.
Yeah.
Not now. I'm good now. Again, I'm dealing with doctors and stuff, and it's a lot easier when you know about it. So just educate yourself, get a doctor on board, and help. Again, at the endometriosis, if your period is causing you severe debilitating pain where you can't get out of bed, that's not normal. Your period should not be ruining your life. That's kind of the main point I think we're getting at with that. So you've been a slice. I hope you have an absolute great night. Thank you for hanging out with me. And I can't wait to listen to this all in a row. And
I'm so excited. Thank you for having me. Thank you for being my first podcast host. That's exciting. I'm so glad we connected. And thank you everybody for listening.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. That wraps up the Queen of Positivity podcast for today. Make sure you check us out again next week, Tuesday, for more information regarding communication, positivity, and entrepreneurship. Thank you again for joining us. Bye.